services and the leadership in Iran.
And a good Saturday morning, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're so grateful to have you. We are here live this morning. We told you last night a little bit that if you saw us today, it would not be good news. And it's not good news this morning. Most of you woke up to the news that Israel is under a state of emergency. The United States overnight began major combat operations against Iran along with Israel. There have been retaliatory strikes. Iran has struck back. And we got James Akers on the line with us again this morning. We were hoping to have Gadon, Ruth, or Ruth Landy. And Ruth, today's her birthday, so happy birthday to her. They can't be with us, but we did talk to Amit, and I'll explain that more in a minute. But I want to talk to my guest now. James, good morning again. It just seems like we were talking last night, late into the night, and now we're back up this morning on this live special MacFiles live broadcast of the situation in Israel. I'm going to go ahead and give it over to you to sort of tell us what happened overnight. We understand. I woke up this morning. There's a couple of interesting things about it. The Saudis have come out and condemned Iran, and that is a big change in the tenor of the Middle East. Usually these attacks, the Middle East starts blaming America and Israel for this, but the Saudis have viciously lashed out and said Iran is the aggressor. And it just seems that Trump tried everything. And we talked about all this last night, and none of it came to fruition, and this is what happened. The difference in this attack and the one in June is that normally when we do these things, we do it under the cover of night. Israel does it under the cover of night. This one was done at daybreak, from what I understand. And some of the intelligence people say that they believe that it's because Israel had information of the Iranian leadership where they were at, and they had a clear, and being that they were not as concerned about the Iranian infrastructure because of what the United States did back in June, they felt more confident to go in the daybreak than normally a late night strike. So some interesting things going on in this, but the bottom line is that we have got a military combat campaign again in the Middle East, and I understand this morning this may not be a day thing. This could be lasting a few days. What's your thoughts on all this morning? Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chris. Well, number one, it's Operation Epic Fury is what they're calling it. And so U.S. and Israeli aircraft have went in. It's a different operational procedures this time because they started in early morning and hitting during the daytime. There are two things about that. And number one, it's a religious holiday in Iran, and a lot of the sort of federal workers and the like are at home, and so it sort of clears the deck to attack like structural targets. But they're hitting military and intelligence targets, and so far they've been concentrating on missile launchers and other types of facilities that could strike back. Last night we talked about that President Trump had desperately sought an off-ramp to accomplish by diplomacy what he wanted, which was that Iran would stand down its nuclear program. They refused to budge on that, and in my view, they just didn't leave the United States much of a choice. They just sort of thumbed their nose at the United States. They were obviously stalling for time in their negotiation process, and so Trump decided to hit. But it is first and foremost a failure of U.S. diplomacy in the region. What they thought they could get at the negotiating table didn't turn out, and they gathered military resources in the area, and now they're hitting Iran. We have emptied out several of our facilities in the Middle East of everything that could be pulled out. And so what they're hitting targets in the Middle East with sort of bunker down forces. There is damage in Israel. We don't know the full extent of it.
Yes.
All of our bases in friendly countries in the Middle East have been targeted, except I think you just mentioned it, except for Oman.
Yes.
And somebody may ask, well, why Oman? Oman played a critical role as sort of a neutral party between Iranian officials and U.S. officials in the last couple weeks, and so it seems like Iran is giving them a pass because of the honest broker role that they tried to play in the region.
Jake, I got a question. And this question ate at me last night. It eats at me this morning. And I've got a theory about it, but that's all it is. It's a theory, and we sort of alluded to it last night when we were talking about the apocalyptic view of Iran. Iran knows, I would hope it knows, that it cannot beat the United States militarily. They think they can. They think that they can thumb their nose to the world about this missile program. They have reached this place of arrogance that you mentioned the middle finger. They've been giving us the middle finger since 1979. And no matter what is done to them economically, no matter what is done to them militarily, Israel and them, look, I'm surprised there's not been more brush-ups between Israel and Iran through the years, honestly. There's been some moments that Israel has struck her facilities, and it just seems like they have a little, it's like a backyard skirmish. You know, you get two bullies in the thing, and I'm not saying Israel's a bully here, but you get a couple of kids in the playground, they're fighting, and then you pull them apart, and 5 minutes later they're friends, you know? Not that Israel and Iran ever be friends, but it's not anything that lasts. And this has been going on, my friends, since 1979, and maybe even before then. But why does Iran have this idea? Where are they getting this from? Is it just complete deception, darkness? Or is there some kind of thing that they know that they've got cover should this thing really go bad? And they've got this plan Z where the whole thing goes up in smoke. Because when I got up this morning, I thought about it again. I said, they knew this was coming. The Iranians knew that the Americans were going, and the Israelis were not going to sit around and let them do what they were doing. And this pursuit. But why did they do it? And I don't know if there's an answer to that. What's your opinion on that?
Well, it's number one. It's a regime that since '79, since the revolution in '79. Has just showed itself antagonistic in all of these ways. It's the mullahs it's a radical Shia, very narrow group at the top, and right now they are desperately clinging to power. They know that if there is regime change, all of these individuals that have been participating in these operations against their own citizens,
right?
That there's going to be payback for all of that. One thing we didn't mention last night is I taught a course several years ago. And it was called The Middle East, the history of the modern Middle East. And I told the dean at that point, I said, I can teach an entire history and it'd be beneficial to your students, a history of the Middle East, focusing on a handful of events that happened in 1979. And one of them was the ouster of the Shah in 1979, and a really belligerent. You had the whole hostage situation with the embassy and U.S. officials. I can remember those days when we were watching Nightline every night
Yes.
for for status updates in terms of what was happening in Tehran, and so 1979 was a real watershed event, and it brought into Iran an antagonistic regime that was antagonistic to all Western concepts. They have done everything they can to thwart any sort of Israeli cooperation with its Arab neighbors in the region. There is the ongoing tension between Sunni Islam and Shia Islam, which dates back to the time of the successors to the Prophet Muhammad. So that's been a war within Islam itself that has been going on for years and years and years, centuries, in fact. And so Iran, you have a very difficult regime. It is not based on popularity. The people are basically Persian, and the Shia is sort of just a very is a religious domination that has them by the throat, and they are antagonistic to everybody in the region. They do have a view of the end of times that encourages them to invite war.
Yes.
And they think based on religious precepts that no matter how often the U.S. and Israel strike, they're able to absorb all of that, and everything is moving the end times clock toward the return of Mahdi, which in Shia, the Shia mindset will be that individual that will return at the end of time and will forcibly convert the world to Islam. That's their religion. So anything that they do, basically, even to the point of encouraging attacks on themselves, advances that agenda. It is an eschatological point of view that the mullahs in Tehran have, that is not shared by any other country in the region, and is only shared by their sort of satellites, Hezbollah, and certain elements of Hamas, and the Houthis, and those groups that are dependent on them. What has happened in the last since the October massacre in Israel has absolutely decimated Hezbollah.
Yes. Yes.
To their north, they have pretty much decimated Hamas in Gaza, and the Houthis have been hit time after time, even though they're very stubborn, and they will still try to send out drones and other things against these carrier groups that are floating offshore in Iran, and so it's a complicated mix. It has historical precedents, and we're just seeing now they are again. Why are they so intent to build a nuclear program? Because it accelerates this end of time agenda, which is all important to them and the mullahs that rule in Tehran. What is the danger to that?
World
These
War Three. World War Three, buddy. I
World War
mean,
Three and an uprising, and we've seen 2 or 3 episodes of this, but these uprisings among their own people have never gathered the critical mass to oust the regime, and the constant game that the regime in Tehran is playing is that they can absorb these things but still keep their foot on the necks of their local people. And it's going to be, when I taught this course, one of the things I would talk about is like the Arab and Muslim mindset. And one of them is this whole idea of blood revenge. And I would submit that they are sitting on a hornet's nest in terms of their own population, because they have murdered tens of thousands in these domestic legal protests, actually. And those families do not forget. And so you can make the argument that their hold on power over time is lessening, and they sort of see the handwriting on the wall.
yeah. Listen, there is a breaking story, and I don't know if this is true or not. I'm sharing on the internet. It's funny that the internet itself doesn't have a lot of things on it, but if you go to X, there's a bunch of things on this current event. There is a report, we cannot confirm it, that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has been reportedly killed after these military strikes. Have you heard anything about that? I need to get with our people in Israel. I have not heard anything like that. I know that he was in a bunker this week. In fact, as early as 3 days ago, he started going into hiding. GB News is saying that right now, and I don't. There are reports of that. I'm trying to get Breitbart to see if they can confirm anything. But let me see if we can get anything. There's nothing in Breitbart. There's nothing on Gateway Pundit that says that. It does have your. It does have the condemnation of Saudi Arabia. But James, let me ask you this. Let's say that is true. What happens if he is dead? Does Iran rise from the ashes from this with the new leadership, or do they stay controlled by the oppression of the more mullahs? Because you said something last night that was so true. You can kill 1 million ayatollahs. They got 1 million more behind them, and it's not going to be as easy for the Iranian people unless the American government gets behind them and helps them do this. And see, that's going to require something more than just airstrikes. And it's almost what we did in Iraq when we went in and we bombed Iraq in 2003, and then we went 3 years trying to nation build, and you know what that got us? That did not end well. And are we looking at something like that here, or do you think that if the Ayatollah's dead, we just let Iran choose what its path is this time as compared to forcing democracy on it like we did Iraq the last time?
Well, that's always that is the perpetual problem with forcing regime change in authoritarian governments, right? You may get something that's worse than what you had. And in the case of Iran, the individual standing in the wings of power to replace the Ayatollah, some may argue are actually worse than the Ayatollah.
Right.
So that is a problem that needs to be addressed, and we as a nation are very bad. Historically, we are very bad with managing regime change. We're good at blowing up stuff, but when it comes to effectively managing regime change, We're very poor at that. And,
Yeah.
and there's another factor here. There's been sort of a blackout from the U.S. military side on its operations. What you're looking at on Fox News and other networks basically is Israeli showing their aircraft striking missiles and this, that, and the other. And then you have a lot of individuals. I just saw some from Bahrain, where Iran hit Bahrain, where we have major naval and air assets in Bahrain. And so, in the absence of all of that, if you have sort of a news blackout from our military, then what's left to fill the gap is prone to misinformation. So we have no clue as to the veracity of any of these reports, and now they're showing that Israel's going into safety mode here with expecting another wave of Iranian missile strikes.
Yeah.
So it's that's the sort of world we live in. You have a report that the Ayatollah has been erased in his bunker, but nobody knows whether that's in fact the case or not.
Well, I just put up Newsmax. One of our listeners says that Newsmax is reporting. They're not saying that just yet on their website. What they're saying is that the Trump, U.S. and Israel begin major combat operations against Iran. And I'm not saying that it's not happening. We're just trying to figure this out. But the headlines on Newsmax is actually quite telling, James. I want to read these to you. This is underneath the main story. It says Ukraine Zelensky says important U.S. acts decisively. Canada's Kerry Carney supports U.S. strikes. Germany, France, UK tell Iran to stop attacks. Israel shuts schools, bans gatherings, attack, disrupts flights against Middle East. World leaders fear broader escalation. They always do that. Russia lashes out against the U.S. Russia's the only nation right now that is siding with Iran on this. And then Macron, the weak Emmanuel Macron, that is a joke. He's asking for a meeting of the UN Security Council, which is another joke. And Britain urges citizens to shelter in place, and major strikes hit inside Tehran. That's the headlines we've got right now, and we don't have any kind of confirmation. There's the only picture we've got to our listeners right now of any of the bomb damage because we have scoured this internet all morning trying to see if we could get. And there's really not much coming out of Israel. It's almost like there's been a media shutdown on the pictures, but Newsmax got that picture there. Do you believe? What's your thoughts on the chances that he didn't get out alive? Because these mullahs, they're a pretty sleek bunch now. They are a pretty sleek bunch.
Well, they consider themselves to be so important that they take extraordinary measures to protect themselves. And I mean, it's just self-preservation, right? We would do the same thing if we were running a country, and another country comes in and bombs. We're going to go to a bunker where we're the safest. I mean, that's just a natural instinct. But in this case, what we are seeing, and what makes it all so difficult to read the tea leaves here, is that for very good reasons, both the United States and the Israelis are putting a clamp on information that's coming out in the name of operational security, and they don't want to give the Iranians know that our news organizations like to report as much as they possibly can on all of this. And so they monitor U.S. news outlets and U.S. news sources in hopes of picking up hints of what's coming next or where it would come.
Yeah.
So we're in that sort of even in the modern information age, you can expect over the next several hours to be for there to be a glut of information about what's really going on. There'll be a lot of people talking about it, just like we are, but in terms of being able to get actionable information is going to be very difficult because of operational security reasons.
Yeah. I'm watching, there's a couple of stories I'm going to run by you real quick. I won't keep you too terribly long. I know it's Saturday. I'm so grateful you're with us this morning. If you're watching us and just joining us right now, you're watching a very special live MacFile Saturday morning coverage of the attacks. The U.S. and Israel has struck Iran, Operation Epic Fury. Iran has struck back. This map we're showing you evidently is where some of the Iranian missiles were targeted. It looks like Tel Aviv, around that old town area of Jerusalem, right around, you can see the red marks. And we do have reports, Amit, who was our tour guide in Israel when we went in January. I texted him this morning. He is in a bunker, and he said it would just be disrespectful to call, and he said he didn't want to get on the phone. He said the folks are very concerned and scared right now there, but the rockets are continuing. Look at what he said, but there has been damage in and around Tel Aviv and also Israel. We can confirm that from people on the ground there. But, James, another interesting thing is the domestic response to this. I'm going to talk with you about that, but I've got one thing I'm going to read you. This is from Gunnar Eagleman, and he said that Iran got absolutely blindsided, massively off guard by the sheer force and precision of the U.S.-Israeli strikes. He says their pathetic defense plans collapsed in minutes. And, that just, again, it just makes it... It just makes it unreal that they didn't know that this was coming, and it makes you just it just seems like that the enemies of Israel always wind up on the wrong side of the stick. And I think America would take a lesson from this, that when you do this and you stand on the wrong side of this, you're gonna be in confusion. And I don't think it gets caught off the grid this morning that we're about to celebrate Purim here in just 48 hours. And that was when Israel was basically, the Jews were trying to be annihilated by a madman in Persia. And I think that it's prophetic in many ways. But what's your thoughts on Iran being caught off guard by this? I don't think they were caught as off guard as people think, because they knew that when these talks broke down, America wasn't going to go send them a greeting card and say, have a good day.
No, I don't think they were caught off guard at all. I think what you have is that after a lot of their air defenses were eliminated in the earlier U.S. and Israeli operation, they have not been able to replace those air defense units. Of course, if you would listen to the Iranian press, they're bringing in all of these missiles and this, that, and the other, and they're much better protected. That's just the typical sort of Shia bravado that speaks there. But in point of fact, they have not replaced those very key air defense elements, and the country that they would look to in an ordinary situation to replace all of that lost material, Russia is now has problems of its own right now. In terms of their military hardware, and they're not going to give their best stuff to Iran, and we're seeing the results of that. You don't have any reports that I'm aware of any U.S. or Israeli aircraft being brought down.
I haven't heard any of that either.
And again, just as I would suggest that Iran was hampered in its ability to rebuild its air defense capability. On the other side, you have even right now AI and all this other cyber just moves so quick that you have the Israelis that have the advantage of figuring out what they need to hit, how they can go in without being detected, and the U.S. the same way, and so it becomes a game of sorts, and Iran is on the wrong side of that when it comes to cutting edge technology that needs to be brought to the battlefield to protect themselves from massive aerial attack,
Without a doubt.
And that's what we're seeing.
Let's listen to President Trump real quick while I got you on the phone. I'm going to play this statement he made. This is his announcement this morning when all this took place. Roll the tape. And James, stay with me because I want you to chime in on this.
Okay.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
I think a lot of us
Our
were
objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. These menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again, they can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried and wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland.
Very much.
Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We're going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces, and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. Lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with His help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. They are the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
All right, that was President Trump there, and several things that I took away from there. Number one, this is not going to be a day or two. I think that he is committed to a cleaning house kind of event. But one thing he said at the end that gives me hope that we're not nation building, he put it on the Iranian people, James. He said, you've got now to make the decision what kind of country you want. We didn't give Iraq that same choice. So I'm hoping that we learned a lesson from that some 33 years ago now, because it's ironic, we attacked Iraq on Purim of 2003. I remember it was March 17th, And so maybe lessons have been learned. It sounded like that this has been thought out for a while. What's your thoughts on that speech? I thought he summed it up as good as anybody could. And one thing about Trump, he's right about this. There's been president after president that has had a lot of talk, but they don't walk it. He's walking this out because Iran needs to be put on notice that things are about to change because there's a new sheriff in town. And James, this could be a monumental life. This could be a prophetic shift. I mean, for things to come for decades, if the Lord tarries, of course, and maybe setting the stage for the soon return of the Lord and what is happening.
Yeah, there's. You can view it certainly through a spiritual optic in terms of future wars that are hinted at in Scripture and all of that. But I'm not sure any of that guides the American decision makers. This was a pure and simple approach. It seems to me. Trump tried everything he could to get a diplomatic off ramp, whereby he could end the Iranian program without the use of force. Those efforts, and they were considerable, they failed. So all he was left with was a military option. There were people in his own cabinet that told him that if you do this, you might as well write off the midterm elections. We'll see. So it wasn't a decision that was made for the political optics. It was pure and simple, a geostrategic decision that we have an entrenched enemy that if they acquire nuclear weapons, they are going to use them. For years and years and years, you had sort of the MAD strategy during the Cold War, and we always assumed that the Soviets, even though they were armed to the teeth with nuclear weapons, would be guided by a reasonable self-preservation interest. That rationale, that logic does not apply to Tehran's mullahs.
We talked about that all night last night, buddy. We talked about that all night last night. We're not dealing with a normal situation here.
And again, what we mentioned last night, Trump actually had no option. If he did nothing, if the Iranians were not going to deliver through the negotiation process, and if he did nothing in Iran, that would have been viewed as a tremendous victory for them. They would have exacted as much mileage, political mileage, out of that as possible within Iran and throughout the region. So he had to either win at the negotiating table. The Iranians wouldn't allow him even to declare a superficial victory there, and left him really no choice. And that's the way I view it.
Yeah.
Will the United States be able to completely eradicate the nuclear threat? I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that. It would take more than just aerial bombardment to accomplish that.
Well, I guess that's
will they be able to exact regime change? And that's why he directly appealed to the Iranian people. The ball is in their court. If we eliminate as many of the Quds Force installations as we can, those domestic law enforcement agencies, which are not concerned about law enforcement so much as reinforcing the control of the mullahs. If several of those installations and individuals are eliminated, then the ball is in the court of the Iranian people, exactly where he put it, and we just have to wait and see whether they want to take their own future into their hands.
I want to read something out of Breitbart, and I know that a few folks, and we're not upset with you for saying that you all heard that the Ayatollah was killed. I mean, we don't know. That's all we're trying to say to you, because he may be. And this story actually says, the New York Times has reported this morning that they published a satellite image purporting to show the destruction of Khomeini's compound in Iran. It's unclear if the Ayatollah was in the compound at the time of the apparent attack, but James, the thing is, he was gone, because that was a report out 3 days ago. He had already fled the country, so maybe that's what people have been hearing, that his compound was destroyed. It doesn't mean he was there, and we're just trying to make sure we don't put something out there that people run with. I'm watching X, and there's a few sites that are biting, taking the bait. And that may be what they're hearing, is that his compound was destroyed in Iran, and that's a given. That was the strategic part of this that I wanted to talk to you about, that Israel did something a little different this time. They normally do this in the dark of night because the cover gives cover for their Air Force and their forces. Do you think that because of what happened in the summer, that Israel was more confident they could move this morning in the daylight, and as well as the American government, because this is a little different strategy than we normally do, because most Middle East wars that I've seen in the past happened in the dark of night. We wake up to it the next morning. You know, we're waking up to the news of what's going on at 3 o'clock in the morning over there. But what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that this was that because of what we've done to Hezbollah, Houthis, and the infrastructure, that we felt more confident to do this in the day?
Well, I I could state from personal knowledge, Israeli intelligence is excellent, and so you may have had a situation just like with Nasrallah and Hezbollah. They located him in a bunker. They hit that bunker with repeated bunker buster bombs until it penetrated down to that level, but it was a long period of time before they could actually validate that Nasrallah was dead. And you have the same situation here. If the Israeli intelligence located the Ayatollah in Bunker X, and they had good information that the mullahs were convinced that the U.S. would only and Israel would only attack during darkness. We own the nighttime in military terms, and that's the way we've operated in the past. And so there was maybe a false sense of security that was there. Certainly, there's a lot of disinformation that has been flowing that may have created sort of a sense of security among the Iranian leadership. That was a false signal that was sent to them. And if you combine that with what we talked about earlier, that Iranian air defense forces have been that were largely decimated several months ago and have not completely rebuilt, so that we own the skies right now over Iran. We can basically, with impunity, almost impunity, hit whatever targets we want to in the country.
Right.
And so if the Israeli intelligence had a good reading on a target, we will see.
Yeah.
We will see.
Wow.
If he was indeed there, but the Israelis are pretty good at fixing individual X on location X.
But let's just say this, that I'm sure that there was no Iranians on their cell phones this morning. Like that, there were no cell phone towers and no cell phone calls by Iranian officials in Tehran. I can guarantee that this morning. How about you?
Oh yeah. After what happened to Hezbollah, everybody checked in their cell phones in Iran, especially when a number of their own key intelligence officials had the same thing happen to them as happened to the upper strata of Hezbollah leaders. And so, and plus you have one of the first things that's going to be hit are communication targets here. So there's definitely a fog of war that's descended now on Iran, and communications within the leadership, and especially among these key Quds units and law enforcement units, probably have been hampered, and so they're going to have some problems.
Yep.
It's a twofold problem. They'll have problems communicating among themselves, and we will have a problem knowing exactly what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say, and folks, by the way, if you got a question for James this morning, I'm going to keep him another 15 minutes because I can't keep him all day, even though I'd like to, but he too. And see, you're making up for not being with us next week, Akers. I told you I was going to get you double, and triple to fulfill the obligations of that big, huge contract that you signed, to do this for the big bucks that you do, to talk to us about these important CIA matters. Hey, I do have a question for you. I get all sorts of interesting statements, and I just have to smile and laugh at some of them. But somebody asked a question out there: do you think the CIA is going to impose a leader in Iran or let the Iranian leaders? I think it's safe to say that if the CIA is going to do that, they're not going to tell us. But I don't see that happening. Like, I don't believe the American government, and I think Trump was a big critic of the Iraq war for this very thing. And I think that he saw the mistakes we made in Iraq 33 years ago. We don't want to go down nation building again. We cannot impose democracy in the Middle East. We just can't. They don't want it. They want Muslim rule. Now, whether the Iranians want a less restrictive form of Islam, that's up to them. But I will tell you this, James, I think that what I heard in that speech is that he is not going to be installing anything. He told the Iranian people, this is up to you. And, the CIA is your former organization, but do you believe there's any chance of that? And look, nobody knows ultimately what they're going to do, but I just don't see us doing that this go around.
No, I don't either. What you're going to have is very close cooperation between the intelligence agencies and the military in terms of identifying targets and weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and the intelligence community does a very good job of that alongside the military. Does the CIA have dedicated teams that will go into Iran with the sole purpose of setting up a new regime? I would be very, very surprised if that would happen, almost to the point of guaranteeing, no, it's not going to work that way.
It's not going to work that way, and I know people think the CIA is a bunch of scum. I mean, look, we love you and Brad, and I've told people y'all are patriots, and I know the CIA has been involved in a lot of things through the years, but there comes a point that I think we forget that without the CIA, look, and I have no doubt that the intelligence that Israel and the Mossad and the CIA share, James, has saved a lot of lives. I know people think that the CIA is just this cloak and dagger thing, but they don't realize that this intelligence that we get from these intelligence agencies is part of saving lives. They try to save the lives of Americans. I'm not saying they're G.I. Joe or the Boy Scouts, and they're not Ward Cleaver, but for God's sake, we're dealing with actors like Iran. What do we expect? This is what I don't get with people. Do we understand the world we live in? I mean, you're dealing with regimes like the one we're dealing with this morning that would nuke us in 3 seconds if they had the bomb. They'd release chemical weapons on us if they had them. They destroy Israel in a second. Of course, you're going to try to get intelligence. And, our buddy Brad, he told me this, and I'll go down this road. Folks, if you got a question for James, I'm going to keep him here. You got 10 minutes. It's your turn. And then we're going to wrap this up this morning. But James, he told me that Gina Haspel did a terrible job when she was head of the CIA in dismantling the spy on the ground program, and that it all went sort of, more, I don't know what the word is, how did he put it, outsourced to other situations there. But I think that the information on the ground led to the success of this morning, and it definitely led to the success in June in 25. Am I right in that?
Yeah, no, our capabilities are human, what we called within the community, human gathering intelligence has been sort of gradually phased out over the years in favor of technical intelligence, over flight surveillance and technical means. And Israel learned in that October massacre that there's a limit to thinking that technology-based intelligence will protect you, and they are trying to rebuild their human capabilities in all of these, and of course they're ringed by enemies, and so they're rebuilding their human capabilities. I would. And I know Brad comes from that world, but I know that I, for one, would favor a massive investment in the CIA, not in the bureaucracy of the organization, but in rebuilding our human capabilities.
That's what he was saying. He said that they need to rebuild that, because he said that a lot of this intelligence they're getting now is not coming from reliable sources. And James, there is no better source than that's on the ground. Bear's got a question, and it's actually not bad, and I'm glad she brought this up. It's good to see you today, friend. That the forums, there are forums out there, and Thomas Massick this morning came out, the crazy, insane, absolutely deranged senator from Kentucky, that claiming that this is a cover-up and a cover to distract from the Epstein files of all things. Why do politicians and people, when this stuff happens and we're trying to protect our country from enemies, that they say stuff like this? And why does people like UK and Germany and France, and they go to a microphone whenever these things happen, and they never condemn Iran, they never condemn the reason why we're over there, no more than they condemned Hamas, but they're telling Israel and the United States this morning to show restraint. James, I think it's been part of the problem. We've showed too much restraint, and I think it's time to clean house. I heard something in Trump's voice there that I don't think, if I'm an Iranian leader right now, I'm telling you, man, I would be doing what he said, surrender, because this is not going to end well, because he's not going to sit back and play. It's not Patty Cake Baker's man anymore. And I just, all this crazy talk about Epstein, people do that all the time. It just infuriates me that people would say something like that, because, again, that's the liberal mindset. And you've got none other than a sitting U.S. representative in Kentucky pushing that out there this morning.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, that is just absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely, it is.
There are strategies, and historically, you can point to several examples where governments have used war to distract the people from other problems. You can make an argument that what Russia is doing in Ukraine right now is to distract the Russian people from some very deep structural and demographic problems that are facing over the horizon. They have a window of time to act. There are cases where a government will use war to distract its populace from existing problems. I don't see that in this case, and certainly not because of the Epstein situation. We talked about that ad nauseum last night.
We did, and spent way too much time on it, to be honest with you. James, I'm just over it. I'm over the whole Epstein stuff. He's dead. He's a dead pedophile. You know, the country needs to move on from this stuff. We just do. And I mean, again, if this justice that we claim we're seeking for these victims, then bring real justice. Make arrests. But these hearings and all this blather on X, and this is what scares me with our country, is that mindset that people are more concerned about a dead pedophile than they are a Middle East situation that's really got more repercussions facing us. And Pat and Deb Dolan, good to see y'all this morning. Great question for you. Tremendous question. Do you think any other actors are going to get involved in this conflict in the Middle East? Now, we didn't say this at the beginning. One of the attacks that Iran launched this morning in retaliation of this was on the Bahrain Navy base, and nobody was injured. Nobody was there, evidently. But they did launch missiles into Saudi Arabia. That's one of the reasons the Saudis are up in arms this morning. They're not too happy about it. And the Saudis are no friends of the Iranians, and neither is Jordan. But do you think other actors, and maybe not even from the Middle East, but what about China, Russia, any other actors that may not be so fond of America, do you think this does become a bigger conflict? Because that's the concern out there in the world of La La Land of the United Nations this morning.
Well, that's one of the problems that's facing the Iranian mullahs, is that their partners in the so-called axis of evil, outside of just a couple words that are tossed up of sympathy or whatever, they haven't come to Iran's aid and assistance. And if I was a betting person, I would bet they're not going to. The Chinese benefit greatly the longer this operation happens in Iran. We are expending leading edge technology that, because of this situation with the U.S. Defense capabilities, production capabilities, will take us years to replace. All of that emboldens China, who has their own problems, because if you've been reading the newspaper, President Xi Jinping has basically dismantled his entire military leadership, and so they have their own problems. They're going to sit this one out and let the U.S. use all of its high-tech missiles, pounding Iran, knowing that'll take them years to replace that inventory. Russia is simply not in a place, because it is tied down and bogged down in this war in Ukraine. Russia simply does not have the strategic or military wherewithal to intervene and make a difference in this situation. They'll do exactly what they've been doing, and that is to condemn the United States from a distance through the press organs. And so the mullahs, Hezbollah has been dismantled. Hamas has been compromised. The Houthis are ducking for cover. So they're basically, and one of their neighbors, Pakistan, has just hit one of their neighbors. They're sort of in this thing by themselves.
Exactly right, buddy. I do want to read this paragraph to you. This is coming out of Iran this morning, just in the last hour. The son of the last Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, who's the crown prince, called on the country's military, police, and security forces to abandon the crumbling Islamic regime of the Ayatollah amid U.S. and Israeli strikes on Saturday. Decisive moments lie before us, the exiled Crown Prince of Iran said amid a major military operation launched in the early hours today. He said that the military operation initiated by President Trump should be seen as a humanitarian intervention. And I like that word. It actually is. Targeting the Islamic regime and its machinery of killing rather than a strike on the country and people of Iran. And he says something there, and he goes on, he says, however, despite the arrival of this, the final victory will still be achieved by us. It is we, the people of Iran, who will finish this task in this final battle. The time to return to the streets is approaching. Pahlavi, who has lived in the United States in 1978, shortly after his father, the Shah of Iran, was deposed in his Islamic revolution led by the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, called on the Iranian military to basically abandon this. And he said, quote, "You have sworn an oath to protect Iran and the Iranian people, not the Islamic Republic and its leaders. Your duty is to defend the people, not to defend a regime that has taken our homeland hostage through repression and crime. Join the nation, help ensure a stable and secure transition. Otherwise, you will sink with Khomeini's ship and his crumbling regime." Let me play that real quick.
Value free on the
Well, actually, he's going to speak in Iran, so I'm not going to play that because I don't speak Farsi. But anyway, I was going to ask you, can you understand that? So what I just read to you is what he was saying there, just there. But, you know, it's funny. I was thinking about that as he was talking. You know, it's not the it's not caught without the what I'm looking for irony that Jimmy Carter was in office in 1979 when we betrayed the Shah in 1978, which ultimately led to the ouster of him, and it led to the Iranian Revolution. It did. It led to Iran basically falling into this abyss that it's been in for nearly 40 years, 50 years now almost. You have President Trump now in 2026, and he is making it possible for the Shah's son to return. How ironic is that? That's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Well, it is interesting. The heir apparent to the monarchy has been assuming a much greater public profile. He was very outspoken during the latest wave of street protests in Tehran, and so that is. From one perspective, what he is saying is predictable. When it comes to regime change, is there any thought that there's going to be a return to the old Shah and a monarchy that would rule in Iran? And I would say that I doubt that is deemed a plausible succession scenario by too many people. What is going to happen if there is regime change? And remember, and that's we've alluded to that several times this morning.
Yes.
A regime change is very difficult, and what comes after it is completely unpredictable when you have an authoritarian government falls. And so what's going to happen in the future of Iran? There are going to be several alternatives, but I would suggest to you one where the monarchy returns in Iran is probably way down the list of probable outcomes.
Yeah, without a doubt. That picture that we showed a while ago on Newsmax, folks, is actually the Iranian missile attack hitting Abu Dhabi, and Eli Afriat posted this video here, and I think there is right there. There's the missile attack right there. That's an Iranian missile hitting near Bahrain or Abu Dhabi. And James, I tell you, I'm going to let you go after this, but it's amazing. It's just amazing to me how much convergence these things are converging on the Middle East this morning. And I appreciate you spending your Saturday with me, man. I could keep you forever, but I don't want to keep you all day. We'll be in touch. But if there is breaking news, I may call you back. if we get something major happening. But suffice it to say, folks, the story this morning, the headline is Israel and the U.S. strike Iran, and Iran has retaliated. There has been damage in Israel. We don't have any word of any injuries, any planes down. And we will keep you posted of that. I do know that there are people in bomb shelters right now all across the Middle East, especially Israel this morning. And I'm sure that that is going to be a situation that will be likely throughout the day into the night, because it's already getting close to 5 o'clock there, 6 o'clock now. And so the sun is about to set. One quick question for you, buddy. Do you think that Iran? Do you foresee them? What's your gut for the next 24 hours? Is America just, the force is so overwhelming that Iran crumbles, or do you think they keep fighting to the end? I'll let you go on this.
No, I don't think they're going to crumble within a matter of days. That regime runs a country that can absorb a tremendous amount of punishment. If you go back to the 80s, there was a war they fought against the Iraqis, where they lost. They had tremendous losses, and yet they were resilient. The people of Iran are a very resilient bunch. It's their historical misfortune that they are ruled by a bunch of bloodthirsty thugs. So this is going to have to run for a few days. There's not going to be a quick turnaround for this situation. You're going to have, the United States has already demonstrated its mastery of the air, and they are going to hunker down. This is for the mullahs and the individuals in the Quds Force and the Basra and the other law enforcement agencies that have spent years and years and years targeting their own people. They have everything to lose. They're not going to give in, because if they give in, they know what's going to happen to them. So there's going to be resistance. It's not going to be a quick turnaround story.
Where have we gotten in a country where John Fetterman makes more sense than Thomas Massey? John Fetterman this morning went on Fox and he rebuked Massey, and he said we need to remind Massey that this regime's killed 30,000 of its own people or more. So what is more outrageous, us attacking Iran or claiming that we're starting World War III? I don't think we're starting World War III. I think that we're dealing with something that needs to have been dealt with. And no offense to Mr. Massey, if our government in the past would have dealt with this sooner, we wouldn't be here this morning. So I wish Massey would just shut up. I just wish he would shut up, because he's making himself look stupid. Not that that's hard to do these days, but anyway.
I agree with you, and nobody in the world, with the possible exception of North Korea, wants to see Iran get a nuclear weapon.
That's right.
That's right. They won't do anything about it. They'll let the United States and Israel take all the hard knocks, the public, the international condemnation. But behind the scenes, they're all saying, we hope this program is eliminated.
Yes, we do. Well, buddy, listen, I'm going to let you get back to you Saturday. Thank you for being with me this morning. I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. I'll be in touch with you should something majorly break here in the next 48 hours or so, okay?
Sounds good. Always enjoy spending time with you and your listeners, and I'll have the phone close by.
Please, now listen, don't be sending me a bill for weekend pay. We don't pay overtime for weekends here, okay? So I'm just saying, no bill for the weekend. But thank you for coming on a weekend. I appreciate you much. Enjoy yourself on the Saturday. God bless, friend. Thank you,
God
James.
bless you. This may cost you an extra hot dog at the ballpark.
That I can do. That is a promise. We'll do that, my friend. God bless, friend. We'll see you, man.
Bye-bye.
James Akers, everybody, put some fire in that house, and we're so grateful to see everybody this morning. Listen, if you just joined us, we told you last night before we signed off that if you saw today something bad had happened or something major has happened, and sure enough, we got up to the news this morning that Israel and the United States in a joint military operation has struck Iran. There are still things out there that we're not sure about. I know that there are reports, and they're really not many, but there's one or two X accounts that are claiming that the Ayatollah is dead. That is not true. We don't know that to be fact. It may be, but we know that his compound was struck. But there's the likelihood of him being in that compound is about 1 in a million. I do not believe he was there because I'd read a report just 2 days ago, that he had already fled the country. Now, again, that even I can't confirm. There's nobody. I don't have any contacts in Iran like I wish I did that we could get on the show and talk about it. We're trying to get some of those folks, but I do apologize for mispronouncing the Shah's name. And Swami, thank you for that. She says Reza Pahlavi. And I apologize for mispronouncing his name, but so forth. Anyway, if you got any questions this morning, here's John Fetterman. I do want to play a couple of videos for you before we let you go today. Here's John Fetterman. Put some fire in that house, by the way, for James Akers. What a good guy this morning. This is John Fetterman on Fox talking about Thomas Massie and his massive insanity. Roll the tape.
Others like Thomas Massie who wrote this: act of war unauthorized by Congress. The U.S. is attacking Iran, according to the AP. What is your response to Massie and to your colleagues who don't agree with this?
You know, that's bizarre. You know, I'd like to remind my colleague over in the House that Iran massacred 30,000 of their own people right now. This war is not about the Iranian people. It's about this poisonous regime. And that's why I'm proud to stand with our military. I'm proud to stand with Israel. I might be a Democrat, but in this specific case, the president is absolutely correct to do these kinds of actions. And we have Israel's back. And now that's why it's entirely the path for peace in that region. How many how much negotiation? I never thought they would work. Iran has only ever responded to these kinds of things. And now here we are right now, and they have the opportunity, real peace, and to change their way, committed to trying to destroy Israel and destabilizing the entire region.
Yep, and that's John Fetterman, who makes more sense than Thomas Massie, who makes less sense than the Easter Bunny, and a few other individuals I know about out there. But anyway, good to see that statement made by him. Carol, she says to Iran leaders, this is a spiritual war to them as well as political. Carol, that's a great point, and that's again what, James and I were trying to. I was trying to really hammer that, and I think that's what most people don't understand. Some do, but this is spiritual to them. This is a spiritual attempt to annihilate Israel, and it's been this way for 47 years. This has been their goal. And again, it's not caught without coincidence that we're just 2 days away from Purim. It's very prophetic. And again, where Massie goes wrong is that Trump does not need to go to Congress to protect our country. And if he strikes a nation out of concern, Bill Clinton did it in '98. He didn't declare war on Iraq. He sent missiles into Iraq, and it's been done before. When George Bush, we declared war on Iraq, actually he went to Congress and got a war resolution, and the Democrats, including Hillary Clinton, voted for it because they felt like a national threat, and then they turned on Bush later and Bush Jr. and swore up and down that he lied about weapons of mass destruction. And we've argued that 23 years ago. 23 years ago now, and it's useless to go back and rehash that. But I think hopefully some lessons have been learned from that. some big lessons. One of the biggest lessons is we can't nation build in the Middle East. And all I've heard this morning from both the Iranian leaders that are wanting a new regime, from President Trump, from Benjamin Netanyahu, he's telling the Iranian people, this is your chance. This is your chance to change course. Carol, your point is well taken. And I think that we need to realize that this is a spiritual war. This is not a political war, and this goes way beyond missiles. This goes to an intent to wipe America and Israel off the map. They have been wanting to do this from the times of the Persian Empire. And let us not forget, it was Haman who was in that Persian Empire back in the days of Esther that wanted to destroy the Jews. And they've been people have sought their destruction for a long time ever since. And so, good point. Well taken. Well taken this morning. Jason said, I think that's an insult to the Easter Bunny when I say that. When I say Massey. I'll agree, Miller. I'll agree. My apologies. My apologies to the Easter Bunny. My apologies to the Easter Bunny. Exactly. Totally agree. But Massey's wrong. Trump doesn't have to go to Congress every time that he decides to take our national security into play. And this is a national security matter. Iran, he sat down with them, and they're trying to build a nuclear bomb. And again, if you get down to it, it was Israel that sort of led the way this morning. The United States just sort of had her back. And said it. We had her back on this. And people like Massey just... You Kentuckians, y'all, I don't know how y'all do this stuff. Y'all got McConnell and Massey. I love y'all up there. Y'all my neighbors to the north, but good grief. Come on now. You gotta find two better. Of all the wonderful people in Kentucky that I know, there's got to be two better folks to put on the Republican side than Mitch McConnell and Thomas Massey. One of them's gone, thank God, in January. McConnell's retiring. And I don't know when Massey comes up for election, but he don't need to be back in that office. He is a turncoat Republican, and he's not even a rhino. He just is just a loser. That's all I got to say. Anyway, any other questions real quick this morning? We're going to let you go here. It's Saturday. I know you got time to be with your family. So he's leaving too, Pat. That's true. He's got nothing good. I'm glad he's leaving too. Good to see everybody over in Facebook this morning, as well as YouTube and X. Carol, how does this line up with prophecy? Well, this is what I believe how it lines up. If the Iranian regime falls, okay, if the Iranian regime falls, and there is a more moderate government that is more friendly to Israel, it just pushes us closer to when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction shall come upon them like a woman. But I'll just say this, that, and I don't have time to get into all of this because we're going to be talking about all this on Wednesday nights eventually in Revelation, because we're studying Revelation right now. We're going to be studying Daniel. We're studying it in the morning Bible studies. But just a quick prophecy overview. We know that the man of sin is coming. He's called the king of Babylon, but he's coming from the old Assyrian Empire. Iran was not in that Assyrian Empire, but she is part of and will be a part of, I think, the coalition of nations of the Middle East that may form that confederacy that forms that Daniel saw in that image, that will persecute Israel in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. What I believe, this can go one of two ways. If that regime becomes apocalyptic and the Middle East goes up, if this does become a regional war, then what would happen if that takes place is that a man or somebody that could step up to the plate and solve this bigger problem of the hatred between that branch of Islam and Israel, he would be hailed as a Messiah. He would be hailed as a Messiah. I get very, my antenna goes up all the time when I hear overtones of peace in the Middle East because there will always be seasons of this before the coming of the Lord. And we may be in for that. And look, and then I'll just say it like this. Let me. That's the negative. Let me say about the positive. Iran has been closed to the gospel for many, many years. The good thing about this, and this is maybe the Lord's doing, but this also is prophetic. We know that God is making one final push on this earth to get as many souls into his kingdom before Jesus comes back for the church and the curtain opens on the Great Tribulation. We know that. The harvest is for sure. Revival is iffy because revival is really the church. Harvest is the lost coming into the kingdom. And I believe that if there is a moderate regime, a more West-friendly regime, a regime that the Iranian people would rather have that's not as oppressive as this Islamic regime is, there is a possibility that the gospel could come in and you could see mass evangelism in Iran. And I hope that's the case. I really do. I hope that is what results from this. It's hard to say how this is going to go because we're in the initial stages of this. And again, when you heard the statements this morning about it's up to the Iranian people, it's really what direction they want to take. And I hate to say this morning, but the Iranian people may choose to stay true to Islam. I don't think they will, but you just don't know. We just don't know how the Iranian people are going to go. The Iraq has been very quiet, and I will just as a little head nod this morning, it's been very, very quiet in the region of Iraq for nearly a decade, 2 decades. You don't hear anything hardly about Iraq anymore. But Iraq is actually the center point of Bible prophecy. It is where Babylon of old was. And Saddam Hussein, the late Saddam Hussein, he thought he was a reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar. And that Babylonian Empire and the seat of that Babylonian Empire was in Iraq. And the Assyrian Empire includes Syria, it includes Iraq, it includes Lebanon, and western portions of Iran. And there's some Bible people that believe that the Assyrian Empire even included Iran. So if that's the case, then that tells us, because the Antichrist is called the Assyrian, I was reading in Amos, and Amos used that word Assyrian again, talking about the coming man of sin. Last night I was reading that and it perked my attention. We know that he's going to be an Assyrian. He's coming from the old Assyrian Empire. It's Syria in the Bible, but it's Assyria. And modern day Syria is just part of that. So that whole region of the world is center stage for the events that are recorded in Daniel, in Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Zechariah, Joel, and Revelation. And Isaiah. Isaiah has a lot to say about the end times. It all has to do with Israel. So whenever I see these things go on, yeah, it's an antenna grabber that we're in prophetic times. We're in prophetic times. And I think it's just, we're early in this game right now. We'll just have to see how this plays out. But I would not be shocked if a Western-friendly government emerges from this. Israel would be more apt. Do you think about it? Think about the power of a Western-friendly Iran or Iraq that told Israel, a leader that would arise in that part of the world, and that told Israel, we want to have a covenant of peace with you. And not only that, but we've got the solution to the Palestinians. We're going to help you solve the Palestinian issue. We're going to let you rebuild your temple. We're going to make sure Hamas don't do what they did to you from Gaza anymore. We will eliminate Hamas. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I think Israel would sign that deal in a minute. Daniel says that they're going to sign something. They're going to make a covenant with this man of sin, and he's going to break that covenant in the middle of the week. So, yeah, it's very prophetic. It's very prophetic. Now, how all this plays out, I don't have ability to say. I just know that there are a lot of possibilities that this shows us that, as the old saying goes, it's getting late. 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 And Jesus is coming. Before we leave, yep, Rand Paul is another one, Dennis. That's another one that's him and Massey should be drinking buddies. I just want to look at the news wires before we leave this morning. By the way, this is off of Gateway Pundit. I want to make sure there's no other stories that are breaking about the Ayatollah, and we don't have any kind of reporting that the Ayatollah has been killed. So I think that is just something that is being put out there. I would say that his compound may have been destroyed, but he was not in it. And I guarantee you, Gateway Pundit or Breitbart One would have it. If that was the case, those are the two. Websites that we always look at, and I'm just looking at this right now. So there's really not any kind of thing that says that. And I would just say, I guarantee you that would be top page news if he was dead. If he was dead. But we will keep you posted of this. Now listen, as of right now, it's not MacFiles Tuesday night. This is MacFiles special report. This morning we didn't even have a chance to change the screens this morning. But we're grateful to have you this morning, and we hope that you enjoy our coverage of it, and we will keep you posted. I'm sure there will be news throughout the day. If we see the need to come back on, we will. The last time I checked, I want to just make doubly sure before I let you go, because I was hoping somebody, nope, they can't do it. I was hoping that folks could come on the phone, but they can't. Amit told me, he says, I'm back in Israel. He said, I'm in the bomb shelter with my neighbors. It won't be respectful. He said, there has been some buildings have been destroyed. Families have lost their homes in Israel this morning. So there has been some damage. We hope that that will be at a minimum, and we pray that there's no loss of life. Listen, stay with us on the Mac Files today, and if something major happens, we'll be back on, okay? And have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you back here in the morning for the Sunday morning programs and the Sunday night. Definitely tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, our Sunday night service. We'll be in Grand Ridge, Florida tomorrow. If you're in the northern panhandle area of Florida, come join us, 2011 Finley Avenue in Grand Ridge. 11 o'clock Central, we'll be speaking there tomorrow, filling in, sort of being a fill-in pastor tomorrow, and just for the next couple of Sundays, and then they'll be looking for their pastor after that, I'm sure, but they asked me to fill in for them right now, just for a couple of days, for a couple of weeks, and I told them I could do it since I'm down here. It's just down the road from us here, so be praying for us there in that church. God bless that church. That's the first church I ever pastored, and the last church I ever pastored, and has a lot of special feeling and meaning in my heart, and honored to be called and asked to help them out right now. And we're going to do our best tomorrow to do that and encourage them. Listen, God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. Listen, Monday night, Ricky Wilson at 7. We're going to have a special Purim presentation, either Monday night or Tuesday. We're going to deal with this anti-Semitism. I'm sure Iran will be on the forefront of this discussion. I see Miller out there. Jason's going to join me with some things and some other guests we're going to have this week. And we've just got a great week of shows coming. Eric Karen will be back with us. We're looking at some other guests we're working on right now. Frank Tuco is going to be coming the week after next. Frank is working with the persecuted church in Nigeria, and I met him at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, and I'm excited to have him on to talk about the plight of the Islamic attacks on Nigeria, because Nigeria is facing some very serious situations because of this very element of Islam that is basically America and Israel is going after this morning in Iran. It's the same wing of the Islamic branch. It's the Shia and the Jihadi part. So stay with us next week. It's going to be an interesting week. We celebrate Purim Monday night at sundown. That'll be actually in the morning when we're on the morning. It's sundown Israel time Monday, and then it'll go into Tuesday and some on Wednesday. So it's a very prophetic time, and grateful that you could be with us today on a MacFile Saturday. And put some fire in that house. And we're grateful for you. And we'll see you back here. And if we get any news about anything, we'll say this. Check our Telegram room. Check our Telegram room. And for those of you that are on Telegram, that is where you need to go. Let me just put this link in here. And that's where you can find us at, if it's not already been done. And let me do that. There we go, right there. Join us on that Telegram room, and you will get all the updates. We will update you there. Whatever is going on there, let me put that on Facebook. Please join us there. Join that page. Be sure to subscribe to us, and here on the channel, the YouTube channel, or Facebook channel, and Telegram. And you Rumble folks, enjoyed seeing you this morning too. God bless you all. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. God bless Israel. Prayers for the peace of Jerusalem. Take care. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully the Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Have a good day, everybody. Be blessed out there. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.